स्वागतम् अद्य बुधवासरः दिनाङ्कः नवमः पञ्चमस्य मासस्य नवमो दिनाङ्कः 5th today is the 9th of May. This is the व्याकरण वर्गः व्याकरण शिक्षा लुङ् लकार प्रकरणम् प्रथमतः मङ्गलाचरणम् रामो राजमणिः सदा विजयते रामं रमेशं भजे रामेणाभिहता निशाचरचमू रामाय तस्मै नमः रामान्नास्ति परायणं परतरं रामस्य दासोऽस्म्यहं रामे चित्तलयः सदा भवतु मे भो राम मामुद्धर राम रामेति रामेति रमे रामे मनोरमे सहस्रनाम तत्तुल्यं राम नाम वरानने श्रीराम नाम वरानन ओं नमः इति। अथ श्री माहेश्वर सूत्राणि अ इ उण् ऋल् ऋक् ए ओङ् ऐ औच् हयवरट् लण् ञमङ ण नं जबञ् घडदश् जबगडदश् खफ छ ठ थ छ ट थव कपै श ष सर हल इति माहेश्वर सूत्राणि. Okay, last time we were finishing up a couple of things on page 157. On page 157, we are doing this second form, the so-called second form. So we are doing this form aduhu, and we are following this document from the Saturday class because Daiva Yogena. Luckily, we have the same topic in the Saturday class going on now, so we can use the same document. And if you recall, a couple of the steps were not exactly in the right order in this example, but now I've changed them to be in the right order. So the sutram you're looking at was inoga lungi. So the example will be very similar to what we have in the book. So in the book, of course, we have the dhatu da, tudai dane, tudai dane. But in our Saturday class, we looked at this example of in gatau inoga lungi. So inoga lungi was straightforward document. I mean, very straightforward sutram, sugamam sutram. It's 2445. So when you see the number 2445, you should immediately recall this adhikara of ardha dhatuke. Ardha dhatuke starts from 2435 starts ardha dhatuke, and we have seen a number of rules from the adhikara. For example, we have already seen, so 2435 starts ardha dhatuke. Ardha dhatuke adhikara comes in Ashtadhyayi in two places. One is this one from 2435. Another one starts from 6446 ardha dhatuke. That's in the Angasya adhikara. For example, ato lopaha, ato lopa iti cha, all that are in that Angasya adhikara, the ardha dhatuke, which is in the Angasya adhikara. But right now we're looking at 2-4, and this is what, there is a adesha being done in place of certain dhatus, ardha dhatuke, when the intention is to add a pratyaya, which is sanya ardha dhatukam. So inoga lungi is one such sutram. Now we have already learned the bhuvo vachihi. So we have asted bhuho. We'll be learning some more also. Inoga lungi, very straightforward sutram. It's when the intention is to add the pratyaya lung in place of in gatau. There's a adesha of ga. Important thing is here, this is a lungi is the vishaya saptami, which means even before the lung pratyaya comes, we can make the adesha ga in place of in gatau. The reason why that is slightly important is that otherwise, if you bring the dhatu in gatau in the beginning itself, then the ardajadina may create a problem, because the dhatu, of course, in gatam is halantyam, nakarasi itsanya, adubandha lope, ikaro vashishyate. So if you bring the dhatu in gatau and add lung to it, then what may happen is that we have to deal with this ardajadina. So rather than create that problem, we make the ga adesha as soon as the vivaksha is to add lung. So we did that last time in the class. So otherwise the steps are kind of straightforward. We brought the pratyaya lung. Again, just to refresh yourself, the lung is a default past tense in the adhikara of bhute. Within the dhato adhikara, in the adhikara of bhute, Panini gives this sutram lung. Lung means in the sense of past. In the past tense, lung pratyaya is used. Now we know that we have anadyatane lung and parokshe lit, which means that if the action is exclusively not of today, then we have to use lung. And within that, if the action is exclusively not of today and is remote to the speaker, then lit has to be used. So basically, whenever there is any today component to this past action, then lung is to be used. Of course, in the language, all these distinctions are not strictly followed, needless to say, but technically this is the way it is. Okay, so don't be surprised if you see this being used interchangeably in some places. So these anadyatane and parokshe may not be, and particularly anadyatane may not be strictly being applied. So lung may be used sometimes, even when the action is exclusively not of today. But as far as the Ashtadhyayi is concerned, lung should be used only when there is a today component to the action. So brought the pratyaya lung, otherwise the steps are as usual, anubandha lopaha, then the pratyaya ji, because prathama purusha bahuvachanam, then chi lungi, chile sich. Chi lungi is an apavada for kartari shap, so instead of kartari shap, chili comes in here. And then we get, so when lung is there, pratyaya chili comes in there. Pratyaya chili comes in there. So it doesn't matter if it is, but chili lungi doesn't say only kartari. Kartari, karmani, no matter what it is, when lung is there, chili is going to come in there. So right now we're talking about kartari. So in this example, it is an apavada for kartari shap. But even if the vivaksha is karmani or bhave, still chili will come there because of lungi. So chili lungi. Okay, now chile sich is the default. This is chili will come all the time, chili lungi. But the sich comes only as a default, as a substitute for chili. All this we did last time, and now this is a special dhatu where the sich takes the look elision by 2477. Again, look at this number 2477. We should be very well familiar with that region. 2477 is the region of the look. Pratyaya takes the look elision. 2477. We already studied adiprapradibhya shapaha. Of course, we have used the supo dhatu pradipatikayoho. We have also used the amaha. We have used avyadav supaha. We have used navyayi bhava datom topanchamyaha. Navyayi bhava datom topanchamyaha. We have used that. So we know what to expect. So basically what this is saying is sichi gatistha gupa bhubhyasya chaf parasnipadeshu. So following one of these dhatus, the sich pratyaya takes the look elision when parasnipadeshu. Parasnipadam follows. So this ind is a parasnipadi dhatu. So there's no question. So this is a parasnipadam, and then pratyas lukshlu lupaha. The entire pratyaya takes the look elision. And now this is where the steps were slightly not correctly put last time. So we corrected this. Unless this sich comes, then we cannot do the jus, because the jus is being done by 34109. Sig abhyasta vidibhyascha. Sig abhyasta vidibhyascha. So that requires a sich to be there, or a abhyasta, or the dhatu with jnane. So sig abhyasta vidibhyascha. So last time the steps here in this document were slightly incorrect, because I think we had the jus even before the sich came in. You cannot do that. So this is the jus adeshaha can only be done after the sich pratyayas come. Now the thing is that don't forget pratyaya lope pratyaya lakshanam. Pratyaya lope pratyaya lakshanam. So even though the sich has gone away, the lakshanam is still there. Therefore, we can use sig abhyasta with abhyascha. Also, we looked at the Niyama Sutram 341110, and that was we looked at back ataha. Ataha says a sijluki adantad eva jus. So basically, if Niyama Sutram means what? Siddhe sati arambha niyamarthaha. When something is already been accomplished, been prescribed by some other rule, This rule again comes and says that means that it is limiting the other rule. So sijabhyasta vidibhyascha already told us that following sich, the G becomes jus. Now ataha again comes and says that if you have adanta dhatu, then following that, following a sich, G becomes jus. Now why do we need this? Already we were told that G becomes jus if it follows sich. Now why do we need ataha? That means that ataha must be niyamartham, because ataha otherwise has no prayojanam. Because if already sich is there, then we already have the conditions to make G into jus. But then ataha comes and says that if that is following a adanta dhatu, now how can the G follow a adanta dhatu and follow sich at the same time? It can only do that when sich luk has taken place. So basically, if sich luk has taken place, then the G will become jus only if it follows the adanta dhatu. That's the meaning of ataha. So ataha says sijluki adantad eva jus. But right now we do have adanta dhatu. We do have ga which came in place of in. So right now the sich has taken look by gatistha gupa bhubhya sichaf prasne padesho, and we do have the G following there, but we have adanta dhatu. So basically we can use sijabhyasta vidibhyascha to replace G by jus, taking the permission of ataha. So ataha gives permission. Ataha cannot stop sijabhyasta vidibhyascha because we do have adanta dhatu. So G becomes jus, and then once we have that, of course by chutu jakara se itsanya, so pratyadi jakara itsanya, and then na vibhaktau tusmaha stops the sakar from getting the itsanya, and then we get usya padantat pura parayoho ekadeshaha. If you have a avarna, which is apadantaha, followed by the us, then pura parayoho ekadeshaha. Ekadeshaha is the pararupam ekadeshaha. And then of course adagamaha, lung lang ring kvadarataha, anubandalopaha, rutta visargau. So usya padanta, the thing we have in this document over here, this is in the adhikara of ekah pura parayoho. So it says that apadantad avarnad usi pare pararupam ekadeshasat. Okay, now so that was where we stopped last time. Some of these steps were not correct last time. Last time we had the G replacing jus replacing G even before the sich came in there. But the reason for that was done was, normally we have said that we should, once we apply the Tipta 3478, we should finish the remaining rules in 3.4 before going any further. So now the 34109 should be finished before going any further, but 34109 requires sich to be there. Sich abhyasta vidibhyascha. So we cannot apply 34109 until sich comes. That was what was wrong in the document last time, so now it has been fixed. So 34109 can only be applied after sich comes. So we bring in sich by chile sich, then apply the look, and then by pratyaya lope pratyaya lakshanam sich is still there. Then we apply 34109 with the permission of 34110. And yes, so we get the form. So anyway, so that is where we were in the book. We were on page 157, and this is the form aduhu. Will be the same steps. That the dhatu is dudai, so it is ubhayapadi because of suritagnyataha kartavipray kriyaphale, and then of course sheshat kartari parasmapadam. So by using these two rules, so in the parasmapadam it will become aduhu. So what I'm talking about is sheshat kartari parasmapadam. This dhatu has chavarga panchama as an it. So therefore by this one suritagnyataha kartavipray kriyaphale, it can take atmanepadam kartavipray kriyaphale, remaining case Sheshat Krite Parasyapadam. In Parasyapadam the form will be Aduho. Okay, this is where we stop next time. So far we've done in the book this point number 224. Okay, that's what we finished last time. Now, yeah, we're not following the book order, we're following the order that we did in the class already. We'll connect with all the points in the book. We'll cover all the points in the book, but not exactly in the same order. One more thing from last time I just want to finish up is that we were talking about this form Vyadhi when we did the Subhashitam. Subhashitam, we had the word Vyadhi. Vyadhire Vasaha. And I think I did not do a good job of explaining this word Vyadhi. We did mention this sutram, which is Upasarge Ghokihi. Remember this dhatu dha, judhai dharana poshana yoho, that has the ghusanya, dada gvadap, dada gvadap, dada gvadap. So that is, see, all these sanyas are very important because then they are used in various places. So we cannot ignore the sanyas. So here comes dada gvadap. So then 3392 says that 3392 upasarge ghokihi ram upasarge saptam ekavachanam. This is an adhikara of tatropapadam saptam istham. So from 3192 starts adhikara of tatropapadam saptam istham. So we are in that adhikara. So upasarge upapade sati. So when the upasarga is upapadam, then what happens is that the ghoho, following a ghusanyaka dhatuho, the pratyaha ki comes in there. Ki. Ghokihi. Now we are in this 3.3 in Ashtadhyayi is a place where Panini creates these nouns from verbal roots. So in that adhikara. And there is adhikara going off. See how this adhikara is so important in the Ashtadhyayi. Adhikara is of bhave and akartari chakarake sanyaya. It's very important sutram which we have emphasized many times in the class. Is not only bhave, not only the abstract noun, not only the action represented by the verb, but any other karaka except kartari, akartari. So it cannot be the doer of the action. It can be that by which the action is done, that in which the action is done, etc. Okay. So here we have taken this form, and again this word Adhi is in one good place to find is Vyutpatti is Amar Kosha. There's a very good commentary on the Amar Kosha by the son of Bhattoji Dikshitaha, Bhanuji Dikshitaha. Of course, the Amar Kosha has many commentaries, but one from the Vyakarana Drishtya, from the standpoint of Vyakaranam, one good commentary is by Bhattoji's son, Bhanuji. And then anyway, so that commentary says Adhi. If we found the word Adhi, Adhi is like a mental anguish, mental agitation, mental pain. So adhiyate dukkham anena, that by which sorrow is established, sorrow is planted, so to speak, sorrow is planted in your mind, is adhi, manaf pida. It's a mental affliction. So here we take this is upasarga, actually should be ang really, should be ang, upasarga really is ang, so let me change that. And then upasarge ghokihi. So we have ang, the upasarga is in upapadam. Then we have this dhatu dha, which is the ghi sanya by dada gvadap. And then we have akarti chakarake sanyayam. Then we do anubandha lopaha here also. And then ikaraha, then ato lopa iticha. We have an adantam angam, this dha, and followed by pratyaya, which is sanya of ardhadhatukam, because ki means ardhadhatukam sheshaha, and it is a kit pratyaya, ajadi kit pratyaya. So the angam takes lopaha by alontyasya antya akarasya lopaha. We get the form adhi. And then vividhaha, v equals vividhaha, adhayo yasmat. So vyadhi is a physical, sharirika badha. So V means in this case vividhaha. V equals vividhaha adhayo yasmat, that from which there are a variety of mental afflictions. It's a bodily, it's a disease, roga. It's a disease, but that disease causes also a variety of mental anguish, pain. So anyways, one more time, adhiyate dukkham anena adhihi. This is how the language expands, We take a dhatu like dha, to place, to bear, to hold. But then we make a noun adi, upasargaha ang, by using this sutra, upasarge gohakihi. Because it can come in any karaka except the doer. So that by which sorrow is planted in your mind. This is a mental affliction. And then vividaha adhayo yasmat saha vyadhihi rogaha. So of course the Bahuvari compound. Okay. So that was the correction from last time. Now let's continue with the document here that we have. We'll connect to the book as we go along. So the next sutra is Sichi Vriddhif Parasvapadesho. See, so far the form that we looked at was a special form by this sutra, which is 2477. Gatista Gupa Bhubhyasya Chaf Parasvapadesho. So that was a special form. That is where the sich took the look elision. Now let's take a look at a form where the sich does not take the look elision. Remember, when the pratyaya takes the look elision, because of the nalumata angasya, we cannot do any anga karyam based on the pratyaya which took the look elision. Nalumata angasya. So that sutram is 1.1. It's a paribhasha sutram. It will come in 1.163. Nalumatangasya. That's why when we had bhu plus sich and the sich took the look elision, we could not do any vriddhi, anything, or even guna adeshaha because of nalumatangasya. So the sich pratyaya could not act on the angam. After sich pratyaya took the look elision, it cannot act on the angam. But now let's look at the case when the sich pratyaya does not take the look elision. So here we see, then what happens? Let's look at an example in the Bhagavad Gita. Samvadam imam ashrausham adbhutam romaharshanam. Very nice use of lung pratyaya in the Gita. Towards the end of the Gita, Sanjaya says, I have just heard this wonderful dialogue. So I've just heard. It's a recent past. That's why I like this example in the Bhagavad Gita. Samvadam imam ashrausham adbhutam. This wonderful dialogue I've just heard. Ashrausham. Let's just derive the form Ashrausham. Ashrausham. So we start with the usual steps. Dhatu Shru, which is Shru Shravane. And Vivaksha is of course Lung Karti Pragaha Uttam Purusha Ekavachanam. And then we Shru plus Lung Anubandha Lopaha Upadesha Jananasikit Salantyam Tasya Lopaha Tayor Lopaha. And then so we get La. And then we're talking about Uttapurusha Ekavachanam. So Asmadhyuttamaha. So we use the Mip pratyaya here. And now comes the sutram which is Tastastvamipam Tam Tam Tamaha. This is the same sutram we used in the Lang Lakaraha. Lakara is a nit, it has Kavarga Panchama as an it. So tastamipam, tam tam tamaha. So the adesha comes. Of course, by anekachit sarvasya, entire mip is replaced by And then of course by navibhaktau tusmaha, the ending makara of does not get the it's prevented from getting the sanya. Okay, so far we have nothing special. We have shru plus The steps would be the same up to this point. The lakara were to be lang. So nothing special, all the same steps. Okay, and then we get the chilungi. When the lung lakara is there, then when lung follows, then we get the chili pratyaya in between there. And again, it's apavada for kartari shap here in this case. Then chile sich comes as default. Chile sich. In Chile, what happens is that the ikara is ucharanartha. It has no real prayojanam beside ucharanartham. And then the chakara is an it by chutu. So really what happens in Chile is that, anubandha lope. Lakaro shishyate. Only the lakara remains behind. And then in place of lakara, the sakara comes. Sakara of sich comes in there. So actually, in place of the lakara of sich, of chili, I'm sorry, the sakara of sich is coming in there. Okay? So chile sich. And now what happens is that we have anubandha lopaha. In sich, the ikara is an it. It does have a purpose, which we will see in the class maybe later on today or next time. And then anubandha lopaha by upadesha dunanasika it alantyam tasya lopaha. And now we have pratyaya sich, which is sakaradi, which is valadi, says sanya of ardhadhatukam. So we have to obviously think about ardhadhatukasyed valadehe. Ardhadhatukasyed valadehe. So, but this dhatu shru is anudattapadesha. Anudattapadesha, because ajantesho. But I hope all of you are enjoying this new website, which is much more robust than what we had before. Thanks to Kalpesh and Ravi, a lot of work has been done on the website in the last few days. So we have a website which should be now faster and much more stable than the old website. So, I mean, this thing is going to get better and better. It takes time to put all these improvements in place, you know. So, okay, anyway, Ajanteshu, so that's all thanks to Ravi and Kalpesh. So Ajanteshu, we have only had Udrudantaihi Yautik Ruknu Shing Snu Nu Kshu Shvi Ding Shribhi Vring Vring Bhyancha Vinaika Chojanteshu Nihataha Smrutaha. The dhatu shru is not in this list. So therefore, it is nihataha, means anudattopadeshaha. Then what happens? Because of ekacha upadesha anudattat, in nishedha comes. So this idagama is stopped. And then comes the sutram, sichi vruddhif parasmapadeshu. Okay. Now this is a section which we have not dealt with so far. It comes at the beginning of 7.2. So please mark this section. In pratyaya sich, which comes parasmapadeshu. When it's followed by parasmapadam, then you should definitely think of this section. Avashyam smartavyam. Idam prakaranam. This section about sichi vruddhif, 721. Dvitiye pade. Saptamasya dvitiye. Sichi vruddhif parasmapadeshu. Okay, and that, so from 721 to 727, please keep this in mind. This is the anga karyam. It's a special anga karyam. This is another way by they were spotting a lung lakaraha in parasmapadam. If you see a vruddhi adesha going there, in the beginning of the last, in the last class we talked about how to distinguish between the lung and the lung. And we talked about how the gana vikaranam comes here. Okay, so we talked, because what would be the form in the lung lakaraha? We would have had the form the swadibhya shnu. The shnu vikaranaha would have come over there. It become a shru nu am. Then of course there have been the gunadesha a shru no am. It will become ashrunavam. And not only that, in this particular case we had shruva shruja. So in this particular dhatu shru, we definitely know that ashrausham cannot be a lung prayogaha. How do we know that? Because of the fact that when the actually this dhatu shrub is in the bhvadiganaha, but it takes the vikaranaha shnu because of shruva shruja. So this, if this were a lung lakaraha, the shru would have taken the shru adeshaha. It will become ashrunavam. So this definitely cannot be a lung lakara on two counts, because first of all the gana vikaranaha shnu would have come, not by swadibhya shnu. So I misspoke that time. So make a correction. It's not swadibhya shnu, because the swadiganaha dhatus take the vikaranaha shnu. But this is a special case where the dhatu shru belongs to the bhvadiganaha, but takes the vikaranaha shnu. And when that happens, it simultaneously takes the shru adeshaha. So that's how we know that ashrausham cannot be a lung prayogaha. Because for two reasons, is that the shru did not become shru. Second thing is that the vikarnaha shnu didn't come in there. And the third thing is that is this vriddhi, ashrausham. So that vriddhi, so make a note of that vriddhi, right? And that vriddhi comes only sichi. Sichi vriddhif prasnapadeshu. That is one more way of spotting a lung prayoga. If you see a vriddhi adesha being done, like adrakshid, akarsham, avadisham, vrittamavadisham, satyamavadisham, avadisham. See, all these are cases where a vriddhi is taking place. And that kind of vriddhi will normally not take place if you have a simple lang lakara. Of course, unless you have a causative form or something like that, but normally in simple lang lakara, this vriddhi will not take place. So this is another way of spotting a lung lakara. It's only parasmapadeshu, and only when sich comes, only when sich stays basically, doesn't get removed by something or overruled by something. Okay, so please make a note of this section from 7 to 1 to 7 to 7 is this vriddhi prasmapadeshu, sichi vriddhi prasmapadeshu. Okay, what does the sutram say? It says igantangasya. Okay, how do we get the igantangam? This is by the paribhasha of iko guna vriddhi. Iko guna vriddhi, when Panini prescribes operation gunaha vriddhi using the word gunaha vriddhi, guna iti shabdena atva vriddhi iti shabdena, vriddhi iti shabdena, then what it means is that ikasthani, the sthani is the ik. There is the paribhasha iko which comes in the very beginning of Ashtadhyay, iko guna vriddhi. So guna and vriddhi is guna vriddhi is dvitiya, dvivachanam. Pratama dvivachanam. So ikaha sthane eva guna vriddhi staha. So when the sthani is not mentioned, when Panini says do a gunadesha or a vriddhyadesha using the word guna or vriddhi, then the sthani is to be taken as the ik. The place of the operation is the ik. That is what this sutram says. So now in this sutram sichi vriddhif parasmapadeshu, Panini did not say in place of which letter vriddhi is to be done, but he used the word vriddhi. So therefore you understand that ikasthane. And then we are in the angasya adhikaraha. And we have this paribhasha sutram which we have seen, which is the yena vidhistadantasya. Yena vidhistadantasya. Which means that when a visheshanam is being used, right, it is to describe an operation, and that visheshanam stands for itself as well as a term ending in that. So here this ikaha is a visheshanam, ikasthane. So ikaha is qualifying the angam. So now we have that a vriddhi is a substitute in place of an angam which is a ik letter or which ends in a ik letter. So yena vidhistadantasya. Yena vidhistadantasya. So this sutram also recently only we have seen here. Yena vidhistadantasya. Right here we saw it. In the last class we saw that. Yena vidhistadantasya. When we did the sutram ataha, we got adanta dhatoho. Okay? So that's the same thing is coming here, is that, so there are two paribhashas being used over here. The one paribhasha being used is the iko guna vriddhi, is 113. And then secondly, yena vidhistadantasya. Okay. So now what you have, we do have an angam ending in ik letter. Because so ukara is a ik letter. And we do have sich present there. So the angam, so the ik, igantam angam will take the vriddhyadesha, of course, alontyasya. So it becomes shrau sa am. So this is a special sutram here, which is sichi vriddhif prasmapadeshu, and that opens up a section. That opens up a section from 7 to 1 to 7 to 7. So please mark this section. Please keep it in mind that this, when sich pratyaha is followed by parasmapadam, igantam angam takes the vriddhyadesha. Of course, we are going to see some special rules below, but this is a starting point for us. Okay. Okay, and then after that it is straightforward. We get the adagamaha by lung lung ring Ashvadattaha, and then Anubandha Lopaha, of course Adyantau Takitau, and then finally Adesha Pratyayoho. We get the Murdhanyadesha, Ashrausham. The only special thing here was the Sichivruddhi Prasnapadesho. Okay, now let's look at this sutram also now, which is the Vada Vraja Halantasyacha. Look at the number 723. Let's look at the example here, which is Aparthit and Apathit. There are two forms here, Aparthit and Apathit. Okay, of course this is a prasiddha dhatuh, patha vyaktayam vachi, to read, vyaktayam vachi. So vyaksha is lung, karti paragaha, pratham purusha, ekvachanam. Okay, let's finish the example and we'll go back to the book and we'll connect it to the book. Let's look at this example. The first steps are the same. So add pratyaya lung and then bhutarthe anubandha lopaha, tip, pratham purusha ekvachanam is a prasnipadi dhatuh, and then anubandha lopaha, itascha, because this lakara is the kavarga panchama is an it, so the ending ikara of a prasnipadam takes lopaha, and then chililungi, chile sitcha, anubandha lopaha, upadesha jananasikait halantam tasya lopa. So up to this point nothing special, same as what we did in the previous example. But now this is a set dhatu. See, last time what happened was when you had a dhatu shuru, that was anudattu padesha. This dhatu patha is udattu padesha. How do we know that? Again, looked at this our list as usual of the thanteshu nasti ekopi dhatuh, ekopi dhatur nasti anudattu padesha, because this goes in the akaradi kramena. So kanteshu, chanteshu, I'm looking at 7 to 10. Ekacha upadeshanudatta, because that is the in nishedha. That is what stops the idagamaha in certain, when certain, following certain dhatus. So the sutram says, if the dhatu is ekach and it has the anudatta swaraha, upadeshe, then it doesn't allow idagamaha. And a listing is done of those dhatus ending in consonants, which are anudattu padesha. And there we have kanteshu, chanteshu, chanteshu, janteshu, and then danteshu. So there is nothing in the thanteshu. So thanteshu nasti ekopi dhatur nasti anudattu padesha. So ekacha upadesha anudatta cannot apply here. Doesn't apply here. So basically idagamaha take place. So nothing can stop 7 to 35, and we get ardhadhatuka syed valadehe. So please remember that any time you are looking to apply 7 to 35, ardhadhatuka syed valadehe, always take the permission of 7 to 10. Always check with 7 to 10 to check if the dhatu is ekachanudattu padeshaha. Nisheda will be there. Adyantau takitau, anubandha lopaha, and then we get the id agamaha. Why? Asti sicho prukte, asti sicho prukte, asti sicho prukte, which means that following the dhatu as bhuvi or this pratyaya sicha, if you have aprukta pratyaha, aprukta ekal pratyaha, another sanya, aprukta ekal pratyaha, so a pratyaha which consists of a single letter, that's 1 to 41, aprukta ekal pratyaha. So what the condition is, asti sicho prukte says asti sichaha. So following the sich or the dhatu as we, if we have aprukta pratyaha, so this is 7396. We studied this sutra when we did the form asit. So this is nothing new. So but here it says asti sicho prukte eat. So anuvritti of eat is coming down from 7393, which says Bruva eat, also which we have used, like in Gita, Raja Vachanam Abravit. From that sutram, anuvritti of eat comes down from there. And this says that asti sichaha. So if you have a sich which is actually present, or if a dhatu as is actually present, and following that, If you have aprukta pratyaya, means a single letter affix, that aprukta pratyaya takes the id agamaha. So 7396 is the sutram here. 7396 sutram. Quickly I'll show that one. 7396. We have studied this sutram previously also. 7396. Sisicho prakte. 7396. So let's see. Vidyamana sichaha astescha apruktasya halaha. It also has to be a hal letter. Halaha idagamaha. Idagamaha. So here we have the sich pratyaya which is actually present. We have the pratyaya tip which after doing anubandha lopa and itascha is aprukta pratyaya is only a takaraha. That takes the idagamaha adyanta utakitau. And anubandha lopaha bahalantyam. So we get now pat is id is what we have. Now what happens is that this is not a igantam angam. This is not a igantam angam. Not a igantam angam. So we cannot use 721. Remember 721 only applies when you have angam ending in an ik letter. Like when you have in the case of dhatu shru. The dhatu shru we had an angam ending in an ik, in ukaraha. But now we don't have any igantam angam. But there comes this sutram, so we cannot use 721. But there comes the sutram, it says, Vada Vraja Halantasyachaha. What does this sutram say? Again, the anuvritti is coming of Sichi Vriddif Parasya Padeshu. Okay, but this sutram is saying that Esham Achaha Vriddis Sichi Parasya Padeshu. So if you have an angam which is consisting of the verbal root vada, which is this one, vada vaktayam vachi, or vraja, vrajagatau, or ending in a consonant, halantasya, then achaha. See here Pani specifically says achaha. So now we cannot use the paribhasha ikoguna vriddhi. Ikoguna vriddhi paribhasha 113 only applies when the sthani, when the place of the operation is not mentioned by Panini. Here Panini specifically says achaha. So sthani nirdeshaha, the sthani nirdeshaha kritaha, sthani nirdeshaha kritaha, sakshat kritaha. Tasmat ikoguna vriddhi iti paribhasha atsana pravartate. Because the sthani has already been mentioned by saying achaha, so it clearly means, of course, that any vowel belonging to an angam which consists of either the verbal root vada or vraja or ending in a consonant, and the remaining part is the same text, vriddhyadeshaha, when followed by sich, which is followed by parasvapadam. Okay, now a small note over here is that why do we need to mention vada and vraja? Because that also halanta dhatu. Then what is the prayojanam or the vishesha vidhanam? Why does Pani specifically includes vada and vraja, even though they are also ending in a hal? So already Pani has said halantasya. The reason is that these dhatu end in a consonant, but so this looks like there was no need to specifically mention them. But if they were not mentioned, then we're going to see a sutram neti. Neti is saying that if the sich has that idagamaha with it, then vriddhi is stopped. Vriddhi is stopped. So vada and vraja, right? Like avadisham, vritam avadisham, satyam, in the Shanti mantra you have, right? Vritam avadisham, satyam avadisham. So this vada is a set dhatu. It's if you look at danteshu list, vada is not in that. If you look at the list of danteshu and janteshu, these dhatus will not be there. Let's look at that, double check. Always double check here. See, janteshu, tyaja, nijir, bhaja, bhanja, bhuja, brashja, mashja, yaja, yuja, ruja, vijir. So vraja is not here. And same thing, danteshu, ada, kshada, khida, chida, tuda, nuda, padya, bhida, vidya, vinad, vind. That's all. So vada is not here. So basically they are udattopadesha. Udattopadesha dhatu. So they will allow nidagamaha. Always remember, the usual reminder is that the dhatu only allows or disallows or optionally allows the idagamaha. The idagama, actually the pratyaya takes the idagamaha. So these two dhatus will allow the idagamaha, and then sutram neti comes and stops the vridyadesha. Okay. Then after that, what will happen is that we're going to see a sutram again today. Is ato halade lagoho would have done an optional vriddhi. But in this case, it is desired to have a nityam vriddhi. So that is why Panini specifically mentions the dhatu vada and vraja in the sutram, in order that there should be a vriddhyadesha invariably for these two. Otherwise, neti would have stopped the vriddhyadesha, and then 7 to 7 would have done a vikalpena vriddhyadesha. So vikalpaha would have prapta. But atra vikalpaha anishtaha. We don't want vikalpa in this case. We want to have nitya vriddhi. So nityam. So that is why Panini specifically puts vada vraja, because otherwise neti would have stopped it, and 7 to 7 atohala then lagoha would have done it optionally. So we don't want that. We want to have it necessarily. That is why Panini puts vada vraja in 7 to 3, in spite of the fact that they also end in a hal. Okay. So now where were we in our example now? We came to this stage of pat is eat. So the conditions for applying this sutram, vada vraja halantasyacha, have been satisfied now. So because we have a dhatu ending in a hal, in this case the dhatu pata, and we have the sich pratyaya following. Remember, the agamaha only comes and joins the pratyaya. Agama only comes and joins mitravad agamaha. So it is a sich pratyaya with the idagamaha. The sich is still there. We cannot say the sich is not following the dhatu. The sich is definitely following the dhatu. Only thing is that the sich has a idagama with it. So the idagamaha is not a separate element. Idagamaha is not a separate element. Okay. So remember that. So this is a single element. Yadagamas guni bhutaha. So these agamaha yadagamas tad guni bhutaha. So which means that when agama comes, it becomes a part and parcel of that. It becomes a part and parcel of that. So we do have such a sich following there. So now vriddhi adesha praptaha by vada vraja halantasyachaha. Vada vraja halantasyachaha. Now but comes the next sutram which says neti. Neti says that idadau sichi halantasya vriddhirna, which I just mentioned to you, that if there is a sich which has taken the id agamaha, then it will not cause a vriddhi operation. It will not cause a vriddhi operation. So that is now stops the vriddhi. So far what do we have? We have vada vraja halantasyachaha vriddhi adeshaha praptaha, but neti iti nishedhaha. Neti iti nishedhaha. Because the neti says that if this sich has a idagamaha, then we cannot do the vridyadeshaha. You cannot do vridyadeshaha. By the way, the paribhasha here, why this an agamaha, when it comes and joins, it is not a separate element. This paribhasha yad agamas tad guni bhutaha tad grahanena grihyante. Yadagamas tad guni bhutaha tad grahanena grihyante. So basically the agamaha becomes a part and parcel of the pratyaya, whatever it joins to. It tags along with that. Okay. Anyway, so far now neti stops the vridyadesha. Idadau sichi halantasya vriddhirna. So now we have pat is eat, and the vriddhi has been stopped now by neti. So we are still in this section. We're still in the section of sichi vriddhi parasmapadeshu. So far we have seen three rules over here. That if you have an igantam angam, followed by sich, then we get the Vriddhyadesha. Or if you have an angam which is consisting of Vada, Vraja, or Halantam angam, then we get the Vriddhyadesha in place of the Ach, any vowel of that angam. But now we just saw if that sich has a idagamaha, then no Vriddhyadesha. And now finally comes 727. Finally comes 727. It says that ato halade lagoho. Ato halade lagoho. So haladehe lagoho akarasya vriddhir vasyat. This is optional. Idado parasmai pade sichi. So this is optional. Akaraha. So ataha. Ataha. Which has the lagu sanya. Okay, lagu means what? Rasam lagu, but sanyoge guru. So it should be rasvakaraha asanyoge, not followed by sanyogaha. That is lagu. Okay, that is this rasam lagu sanyoge guru, and belongs to a angam which begins with a consonant. It only optionally takes the vriddhi substitute when followed by sich, which has the augment it and is followed by parasyapadam. Then anuvritti is coming down of the sichi, vriddhi, parasyapadeshu, and also iti. So if we say idadi sich, which is followed by parasyapadam, then it can only optionally do the vriddhi adesha for an angam, for the akara, lagu akara of the angam. Right? If the angam begins with a consonant. So haladhehe begins with a consonant. Lagoho ataha. So one more time, if you have a sich pratyaha which has the idagama, it's a idagam, I'm sorry, it's a sich pratyaya with the idagama. It's followed by parasyapadam. And then it can cause a vriddhi optional, vriddhi adesha optionally in place of a lagu akaraha of an angam which is haladi. So that is the sutram here. So what do we have here? We have so far, we have pat is eat. So one more time, the sich was trying to do gunaha on this patha by vada vraja halantas yachaha 723. But 724 neti came and stopped that. And now comes 727, because just check all the conditions. This dhatu is haladihi. Okay, it's haladihi. It's angam, I should say. Angam is haladir, haladi angam. It has a lagu akara, because akara is rasvaha. It's not followed by sanyogaha. And we do have a sich with the ragamaha, which is itself followed by parasvapadam. So laf parasvapadam tangana vatmanipadam. So tip is parasvapadam. So all the conditions are satisfied. Angam is haladi, it has a lagu akaraha. It's followed by sich, which has the idagamaha. It's followed by parasvapadam. So now we get the vriddhi vikalpena. Becomes pat or part. And then of course finally the idagamaha, and then we get anubandha lopaha, and we get a pat athva part is eat. Now this sich pratyaha is going to take lopaha. Ita iti. So there are these three rules coming in the Tripadi section of the Ashtadhyayi, which talk about the lopaha of the sakara of sich. And the three of them is start with this 8 to 26, 27, 28, 8 to 26, 27. So Jalo Jali, Rasvadangat, and Ita Iti. Ita Iti is here. So now, here we have Ita Iti. So basically, if Itaf Parasya, then Iti Pare, Sichaha, Lopaha. So if the Sich Agamaha finds itself between It Agamaha and Id Agamaha, then the Sich takes Lopaha. So very simple. That is the sich pratyaya. Sakara of sich is, of course, in the sich means halantyam upadesha janunasika it. So upadesha janunasika it. So only anubandha lope sakaraha. That sakara of sich, if it finds itself between idagamaha and idagamaha. Of course, the idagama is for itself, while the idagama is for the following pratyaya. So here we have a pat atva part is it. So here the sich is called between the idagamaha and the idagamaha, but ita iti. So itaf parasya sasya lopa syad iti pare. Here this, even though it says sasya, this in the Mahabhashyam it says these sutras are really only for the sakara of sich. So a sakara which is of sich is preceded by the idagamaha, followed by the idagamaha takes lopaha. So then we get, so we had a pat atva part is it sakar lopaha. We get a pat atva part it. Okay. Now what happens is that this ita iti sich lopaha is asiddha. It's purvatara siddham. So no prior rule in the Ashtadhyayi can see this sich lopaha. And we want to apply akasami dirgha, which is way back in 6.1.101. So how are we going to do that? Because as far as akasami dirgha is concerned, it doesn't see the lopaha. It sees the vidyamana sakaraha. Okay. So then comes the vartikam under 823, which says that there is this 823 has a number of important vartikani. So basically the authority of purvatara siddham, okay, is modified in number of ways by the vartikani which comes under 823. So if you ever see purvatara siddham which is not being honored or followed, and you're wondering why that is, come to this 8. Of course 822 we have studied, and 823 is an important. 823 also we have studied in the forming the word amuna. But that 823 has number of vartikani which we can keep in mind. Okay, one of them right now is that sig lopaha ekadeshe siddho vacha, ekadeshe kartavye. When you want to do a pura parayoho ekadesha. Remember the adhikara of ekadesha, ekaf pura parayoho. Ekaf pura parayoho, that goes from 6184 up to 61111 to 61111, ekaf pura parayoho. And in that adhikaraha is a sutram which says akasami dirgha. So in the eyes of akasami dirgha, this sich lopaha becomes siddha by this vartikam. Ekadesha kartavye sich lopaha siddho vachyaha. If you want to make a single substitute in place of two, then the illusion of sich should be considered evident in spite of purvatara siddham. So now we get, so the sich lopa becomes siddha, and then we apply, of course, the akasami dirgha. So this vartikam makes the sich lopa siddha, and then we can do akasami dirgha. We get the forms aparthit, aparthit. So one more time, what happened here was that the vridyadesha was praptaha by vada, vraja, halantasyachaha, 723. But then, because this is the udatta padesha dhatuhu, the idagama is there, it allows the idagama. So neti then comes and stops the vriddhi. And then ato halade lagoho allows it vikalpena, because haladi angam, and we have a lagu akara in there, followed by a sich which has the idagama, and followed by parasyapadam. So then how we got these two forms, pat and part. And then by ita iti, sich lopaha took place by 8-28. The sich lopaha was made siddha by the vartikam. Sich lopa ekadeshe siddho vachyaha. And then we applied akasami dirgha to get the two forms, aparthit, aparthit. Let's go to the book now and see how much we can cover from the book. So let us go to the book. Let us look at this section here. Okay. So now we are in the book on page number 154. As I said, we will cover all the points in the book. We just take them in a slightly different order. Now we are on page 154. Let's see if we can look at this steps and follow them now from what we've done so far. So this is like really a default. The Chilungi Chile Sich, the Sich Adesha in place of Chili is the Utsargaha. It's a default. So really this should be, he calls the second form. Really it's a default form, really. It's a default form. Let's look what the book says now. It's characterized by the insertion of Sa. That is the Sich breath. Sich Adesha in place of Chili. So Chili comes all the time, and in place of that, Sich comes as default. The Sich by Halantyam and Upadeshe Janunasika It Anubandha Lope we get Sakaraha. Okay. And then it says roots ending in consonants or in vowels other than Akaraha. Okay. Now, why this Akara has been taken out like that? Because we are going to see a special sutram later on, which is we have not studied yet. So that is going to do prescribe a special operation for certain dhatus, for dhatus ending in akara. That's 7 to 73. It says yama rama namatam sakcha. So atam. So that the sich takes a idagamaha and the angam takes a sak agamaha. So that's a special form. We will see it soon. So right now, let us make a note that these akaranta dhatavaha, okay, parasya padeshu, they have a special form coming. So that is why in the book he has said that this akaranta will leave them out for time being. Okay, so we are going to study 7 to 73 shortly. So it's going to be, they are going to take an exceptional form. Okay, now the final vowel takes vriddhi. You should make a really equal letter. This is of course 7 to 1, which we just saw. Sichi vriddhif parasya padeshu. Sichi vriddhif parasya padeshu. Okay, so the iganta mangam, we should say, takes vriddhi. And parasya, this is all parasya padeshu really. Okay, you should make a note of that also. He says that, sorry, parasya padam. And a short medial. It's not really short medial. We just saw there should be vada vraja halantasyachaha. Okay, so it should be a, it doesn't say short. It doesn't say short. It just said with dhatu vada, vraja, and any halanta mangam. This doesn't say it has to be short. It's the vriddhyadeshaha. Okay, so you can remove that short really from that thing. Short means this one takes vriddhi in prasyapadam. So basically, it's talking about 7 to 1, sichi vriddhi prasyapadeshu, and 7 to 3, which is vada vraja halantasyachaha. So it should be halantam. I mean halantamangam, and the ach will take vriddhi. It doesn't say long or short. Any vowel will take vriddhi, but it is sichi prasyapadeshu. But of course we know that nati will come and stop there, so it should be a sich without the ragmaha. For in order to use 7 to 3. So when you think of applying 7 to 3, think of 7 to 4. So that nati stops that 7 to 3. Okay. Okay. Now the final vowel except ru takes the guna in atmanipadam. Okay. So this was a sutram which we have studied previously when we did the ashir ling, if you recall that, is the 1 to 11 and 1 to 12. 1 to 11, 1 to 12. Which is the ling sicha vatmane padeshu and ushcha. Ling sicha vatmane padeshu and ushcha. Okay, so let's go back and review them very quickly here, because that time we were focusing on ling, but now we have sicha. So ling sichau atmane padeshu. So this section, as we have remarked many times, from 1 to 1, which is the gangkuta dibjo vanying nyit, up to 1 to 26, this is where Panini prescribes certain elements to be kit or nyit. And of course we know the sutram which we have used a lot, which is sarvadhatukam, and we have also used asanyoga lit kit. Anuvritti of kit comes down here. So right now we are looking at these two, ling sicha vatmane padeshu and ushcha. Okay. Now, so let's see these rules. Let's go to our Sutra Suchi here, and let's see if we can read this. It's fairly straightforward. So we're looking at 1 to 11, 1 to 12, 1 to 11, 1 to 12, 1 to 11, 1 to 12. Let us see if we can find them here. Ling sicha atmane padeshu and ushcha. Ling sicha atmane padeshu ushcha. Ling sicha atmane padeshu ushcha. Okay. Ling sicha atmane padeshu. Ik samipad halaf parau. So basically, you should have a dhatu which is ending in a hal, and the penultimate is an ik. Ik samipad halaf parau. Anuvritti is coming from here ikaha and halantacha. So basically it should be halantam, but preceding should be ik. So ik samipad halaf parau. Jhaladi ling sicha means what? There is no ida agama. Jhaladi, because sich is already jhaladi. Then what's the point of saying jhaladi sich? Because there should be no ida agama. Kitau saha tangi. So when followed by atmanepadam, a sich pratyaya, which is jhaladi, means no ida agama, that behaves like a kit. When you have preceding that a hal and preceding that an ik, that's what happens. This is only in atmanepadam. And then the next sutram was saying ushcha. So that is one sutram, and then we have ushcha. Ushcha. Ushcha says that if you have a ruvarnantam angam, same thing. Same thing. All the other conditions are coming down, which is ushcha says that. Let's see. Ushcha, ushcha, ushcha. Okay. Ushcha. Ushcha, ushcha, ushcha. Ushcha, 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 ushcha. Should be here somewhere. Okay, ushcha. Ruvarnat parau. Jhaladi ling sicha. Kitau staha tangi. Same thing. When sich is followed by atmanepadam, tang. Tang means from ta, atam, ja, to that, up to the id, vahi, mahing. So, when sich is followed by atmanepadam, ling or sich. Ling means the ashir ling or sich. Right now we're focusing on the sich. Is followed by atmanepadam. It has no ida agamaha. And if it is ruvarnanta, following is preceding is a ruvarnaha, then the sich behaves as a kit. So this is what this book is talking about, Sutram Ushcha, which you have studied. So coming back to the book now, you look at it here. That's why it says a final vowel except ru takes guna. Of course, guna is simply by because sichi vruddhi parasya padesho. This entire section which we studied today, from 7 to 1 to 7 to 7, only parasya padesho. 7 to 1 to 7 to 7, only parasya padesho. So in atmanepadam, we go back to the usual, which is the sarvadhatuka ardhadhatuka yoho and puganta laghupatasya cha. Puganta laghupatasya cha. But remember that if this sich doesn't have an idagamaha, then if prior to that, if you have a hal, and if you have a ik prior to that, then the sich is going to become, sich becomes kit. So no guna adesha. Secondly, if you have a ruvarna prior to the sich, which is without the idagamaha, followed by atmanepadam, then also the sich cannot do the guna adesha. That is why in the book he says that a final vowel except ruvarnaha takes guna. Okay, so he didn't say the medial vowel because of 1 to 11. Ling sicha atmanipadeshu. Anuvritti of ikaha and halantad is coming there. So these two sutras we have studied in the context of the ashir ling, but now we are using them in the context of the sich pratyaya, ling sicha atmanipadeshu and ushcha. So they require a jhaladi sich, which is followed by atmanipadam and preceded either by a hal, which is preceded by a ik, or should preceded by a, or you have the sich preceded by the ruvarnaha. In both these cases, the sich becomes kit, and of course, once it becomes kit, then by kniticha, That of course we know. So that is why in the book he says only final vowel. Okay, and he doesn't say the penultimate because of that 1 to 11 is coming over there. If you have halantam, hal ending, and then prior is the ik, and the sich has no idagamaha, then the sich becomes kit, and ruvarnantam if you have the ushcha sutra. So that's 1 to 11, 1 to 12. And then the terminations are, you don't have to really look at this again. Both parasya padam and atmanipadam are those of the imperfect of the second conjugation. Why do you say second conjugation? Second conjugation because the shapluk takes place there, right? Adipradibhya shapaha. So in short, there is, we add the usual endings, usual endings. But he says second conjugation because of the shapluk. So there's no akara. Basically, he's saying that the akara is not there between there. So so that is what is saying that. So that's why he says, but otherwise we don't have to look at it in this way. He's only connecting it to the second conjugation, but we don't have to look at it like that. Only thing he's saying second conjugation because he doesn't want an angam ending in akara when shap or something comes in there. So he says second conjugation. But the second and third parasya padam take the eat agama. We just talked about that because of asti sicho prukte. Asti sicho prukte. So we talked about that. Vidyamana sich if you have, or vidyamana as if you have, following that a aprukta pratyaya, a haladi hal, aprukta hal pratyaya, that takes the eat agama, and that is the 7396. Sisicho prukte, which is, oh no. Okay, let me see what's going on here. Okay, mostly this thing stopped working. Okay, let me see. Okay, it's coming back, I think. Actually, maybe this is a chance to test our new website. See, this website is much faster than what we had before. Because see, if it had taken so much time to come back before, now it comes back much faster than it did before. Okay, let me see. Okay, so Asisicho Prukte 7396. Yeah. See how back it came back so much faster, and so far at least we haven't seen any of those internal server errors. So really a good job by Kalpesh and Ravi to get this back here. Okay, Asisicho Prukte it. Okay. Yeah, this will be been used so many times. It is, we just saw it today also, we saw that. Okay, let's see. Right. See, Sutta Suchi became too long, so we split it into two documents. One is the part 1, part 2. This may be in part 1 as a matter of fact. It's in part 1. Here it is. So it says that Vidyamana sichaha asteshcha parasya apruktasya halaha lidagama. Okay, that's what we have in the book over here. In this says that the eed. That's why it says ihi and eat. Basically the idagama. And the third person plural takes the uhu. That is because of the sija vyasta with the vyascha 34109. We also saw the Niyama Sutram for that ataha. And of course the Adagamaha comes as usual. So let's look at this form now. Akarsham. Akarsham. You know what? We may have a post on this already. I hope you're following the posts regularly. That is the backbone of all these classes. So let me see if I can look at a nice post for us. Okay. Okay. Let us go to our AVG Sanskrit.org. I think we had one with Adrak sheet. So we can use the same steps over here. Adrak sheet. Let me see. Okay. What did we have? Adat, Arodihi, Avadit. Huh. No Drakshi das yet. I thought we had somewhere Agrahit, Abhamsta, Okay, I think I know where we had that. We may have had in one of the questions. We may not have had in a post. We may have had in a question. Okay, that's Adrakshit. See, these comments and posts are becoming so useful now that okay, Adrakshit. Okay. Adrakshit. Oh no, you don't have it yet? Let me try all comments. Maybe let me try and take that. Adrakshit. Okay. Ah, here it is. Okay. Adrakshit. This has not been approved yet, but it should be somewhere here, maybe. Adrakshit. No. Let's see. Adrakshit. No, I had it just here. That's in the answer to a question. No, not that. We don't need that. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, let us go back. I thought we had this somewhere in some post we had it. Let me see. Let me try one more time. Otherwise we can. I mean, there's nothing special in this form. So if we had all the steps, then we could just do it. Oh, here it is. We do have it. I'm sorry, we have it. Okay, I thought we had it. Okay, Adrakshit. Adrakshit form basically is the same steps we just did. Dhatu Drisha, Drishya Prekshane. The ir gets the Itsanya by ira Itsanya. Vacha is Udatta Swaraha. So the ir has Udatta, the Ikara of it, ir has Udatta Swaraha. So it's basically, it is a Prasnipadi Dhatuhu. And then we cannot apply either the Anudatta Nita Atmanipadam or the Swaritagnyataha Kartrivipray Kriyaphale. So basically Sheshat Kartriprasnipadam. And then when we do the usual steps at Drishya plus Lung Anubandha Lopa La, we take the Pratya Tip, in this case Pratapurusha Ekvachanam Anubandha Lopa and Itascha. So up to this nothing special. Then comes Chi Lungi, comes Chile Sich, Anubandha Lopaha Upadesha Janunasiket Halantyam, and then Ekach Upadeshanudatta stops the Ragamaha, because this Dhatu Drish, always check the list in the Talavya Shanteshu. What do we have? Shanteshu Krisha Damsha Disha Drisha. It's Anudatta Upadesha. So this in Nishedha. Remember, never confuse these two things. That's the idagama is decided by the dhatoha swaraha, while the atmanepadam prasnapadam is decided by the swara on the it letter. Never confuse these two. Because the anudatta gnita atmanepadam, so the swara on the it letter, it vowel, that decides the atmanepadam, while the swara on the dhatu vowel itself, not on the it letter, that decides the it vyavastha. Okay, so this, for example, dhatu drish, we just saw that this dhatu, this ikara of it has udatta swaraha. So we use only parasyapadam by sheshat kati parasyapadam. But the rikara of the dhatu, the rikara of drish actually has a anudatta swaraha. You understand? So that, because it's going to be the in nisheda is going to come by ekachu upadeshanudatta. So this dhatu rukaraha, dhato rukaraha has anudatta swaraha. while the ikara in the it, ir, that has a udatta svara. So it's going to be parasya padam because of the ikara of ir has a udatta svara, but because of the rikara of the dhatu is anudatta svara, it's going to become a anit dhatu. Okay, so we stop the ida agamaha, and then what happens is that we get the it agamaha. Asti sicho prukte, because we have a vidyamana sicha, followed that we have the ta pratyaya, which is a prikta pratyaya, it's a hal. So that gets the ida agamaha adyantau takitau and anubandha lopaha. Then of course we get this special agamaha by suji drishor jhalyamakiti. So before we can use this sutram, suji drishor jhalyamakiti, we have to first see the ida agamaha, because this sutram only applies jhali. So we have to first make sure that this pratyaya does not have an ida agamaha. Otherwise we cannot use the suji drishor jhalyamakiti. Or should be akit also. Drishor jhalyamakiti. Remember these two sutras which we just talked about, the 1 to 11, 1 to 12. Those are only tangi. Only when the atmanipadam follows. So ling sichava atmanipadesho. So don't confuse with that, because right now we have parasyapadam following. So that 1 to 11 and 1 to 12, ling sichava atmanipadesho and ushcha, they don't apply over here. So it's important to make sure that this sich has no ida agamaha. It is akit, and then what happens is that this dhatu drish takes the agamaha. Midachontyatparaha. Midachontyatparaha. The joins after the last vowel in drish, which is the rikaraha, and then anubandha lopa halantyam tasya lopaha. This sutram we have used before a few times, so it's not the first time you're using it. When you see a sutram, always look at the domain of that sutram. In which domain this sutram doesn't have to do anything with sich as such. It's not really just only for the lung. It applies in many situations. Like comes in beta, drakshasyatmanyathomai, drakshasi. That's in the lit lakara, drakshasi. So basically this sutram is not really just for the sich at all, but it happens to apply right now because we do have a pratyaya which is akit, which is chaladi, and we have the dhatu drish prior to that. Drish takes the agamaha, and then we do the anubandha lopaha, iko and chi, and then now comes all this. Now remember, vada vraja halanta syacha. We do have an angam ending in a hal. We do have a sich, which is itself followed by parasyapadam. Anuvritti of parasyapadeshu comes down. 7 to 1, sichi vriddhi parasyapadeshu. So, and neti doesn't apply here because it doesn't have any agamaha. So one more time, we have a sich which is following a halantam angam. We have a prasyapada pratyaya following. The sich has no ida agamaha, so the 7 to 4 cannot stop. So when you think of applying 7 to 3, always think of 7 to 4 neti. So everything is satisfied. We get the vriddhya adesha becomes drash sa it. Okay, and then we get, of course, the adagamaha, lung lung rung shvardataha adyantav takitav anubandha lopaha, and then we get the vrashchetishaha. So this is a talavya shakaraha, dhatu ending in the talavya shakaraha, right, followed by jal letter. So vrashcha vrashcha srija mruja yaja raja brajash chasham shaha. So just brajash chasham. So this, if you have talavya shakaraha, dhatu ending in talavya shakaraha, either jali or padante, then the talavya shakara becomes a murdhanya. Then of course shadoh kassi. So if you have murdhanya shakaraha or a dhakaraha followed by a sakaraha, that takes a kakara adesha. That murdhanya shakara or dhakaraha takes a kakara adesha followed by sakaraha. So, and then we finally get adrakshid by adesha pratyaya yoho, because we have a kavarga kakara preceding the sakara of sitcha. So one more time, we had this dhatu drishya. This drishya has a ir as an it by ira is sanya vacha. That ikara of that ir has udatta svaraha. So it's a prasyapadi dhatu. Okay, so we did the usual steps. We did drish plus lung, anubandha lopaha, la, then tip because prathapurusha ekavachanam, anubandha lopaha, itascha, you got chilungi, chile sich, anubandha lopaha, and then we stopped the idagamaha, because this is anudat, the rikara of drish has anudatta swaraha. So by ekacha upadesha anudattat in nishedha. And then we did asisicho prukte, aprukta pratyaha, takaraha, which is a hal, following the vidyamana sich. So this aprukta pratyaha takes the id agamaha. And then after that, he got the agamaha for the dhatu drish, because it's followed by a pratyavasha jaladi, it is akit. So therefore it takes the angam takes the agamaha. So in for by akit pratyaya, which begins with a jal letter, these two dhatus take the agamaha. And then we did the yan sandhi. Then comes the vridhya adesha by bada vrajahalantas yachaha. And then sandhi karyam, we did vrashcheti, of course adagamaha, then vrashcheti shaha, because we have a talavya shakaraha of a dhatu followed by a jal, so jalipadante. So it takes the murdhanya adeshaha, then shadoh kassi, murdhanya shakara or dhakara followed by sakara takes the kakara adeshaha. And finally adesha pratyayoho, we got the form adrakshit. So we come to the book over here, adrakshit. If you look at it down here, that's so akar sheet will be kind of similar. We adrakshit. Akar sheet will be very similar. Of course, there is no agama over here, but akar sheet will be very similar. Step dhatu is kru, so there is no agama, but all similar steps. Only thing is the same thing. Vridya adeshaha by vada vrajahalantas yachaha. Akar sheet. Akar shtam, of course the pratyaya is tas pratyaya over here. By tas tamipam tam tam tamaha. So here of course there is no eat, because the eat agama only comes with aprukta pratyaya. This is tam, it's not aprukta pratyaya. So akar shtam, just tunashtuhu takes place over here. Of course first adesha pratyayoho, then shunashtuhu. Akar shuhu, all similar steps except sig abhyasta vidibhyascha. So that is 34109. Sig abhyasta vidibhyascha. We get the jus, jer jus. So it's 34109. Sig abhyasta vidibhyascha. And then akar shihi, all the same steps. Akar sheet, very similar steps. Akar shtam, again tasastramipam tam tam tamaha, the tam pratyaha, tam adeshaha in place of the tastamipam tam tam tamaha. So in place of tas we get the tam adeshaha, and the same thing akarshta, all the same steps. And now akarsham, again in place of mip we get the adeshaha with the same sutram 34101, because this, don't forget that this lakara is a kavarga panchama is an it, so tasastamipam tam tam tamaha. In place of mip we get the amadesha, akarsham, akarshva, akarshma, nothing special. Now in the atmani padam, okay, let's try that. Okay, let's look at this form ashapta. Okay, ashapta. So here we will have to use a special sutram. Let's look at that sutram in the document here. That sutram is jalo jali. Jalo jali sijlopaha. Jalo jali. So we'll have to look at 8.2.26. 8.2.26. 8.2.26. 8.2.26. Okay, jalo jali. What this is saying is that jalaf parasya, look at the number 8.2.26. We just used 8.2.28, ita eat, didn't we? Ita eat. In that same section, there is sutram jalo jali. Very, very straightforward sutram. It says that if you have the sich, the sakara of sich, which is sandwiched between two jal letters, so jalaha, jali, then the sich takes, the sakara of sich takes lopaha. So it's that jalaf parasya, sasya, lopo jali. Sakara of sich is elided, is preceded and followed by jal letter. So So here what happens is that when we do the usual steps, a shabda, so dhatu is shap, and let's look at this dhatu, shap dhatu. Let's see what kind of swara everything it has. Shap, shap, shap. Okay, let's look at the dhatu shap. Shap. Okay, it's shapa akroshe. Shapa akroshe is dhatu patha 1155. 1155 in the dhatu patha. So let us go there. 1155. It's that way we can check what kind of swara it has on it. 1155. 1155. Shapa akroshe. Okay. So here it is, Shapa. So it is a Swarita Swaraha, first of all. Sorry, Swarita It, excuse me, Swarita It. So what does that mean? By 1372, Swarita Gnitaha Kartavipray Kriyaphale, it can take Atmanepadam or Sheshat Kartaviprasyapadam. So basically it's Ubhayapadi Dhatu. Secondly is Anudattapadeshaha. It's Anudattapadesha, the Akara of the Dhatu Shap Anudattapadeshaha. Shapa is like to curse, maybe it's a shapati. Let's look at in our 7 to 10. If you panteshu apa kshipa chupa tapa tipa trupya drupya lipa lupa vapa shapa. See, it says it's anudattopadesha. The akara of the dhatu shap, the shakarottara vrittiyakaraha, the akara between the shakara and the pakaraha, that's anudattaha. So this is which will not allow any ragamaha. Basically in nishada will take place by eka chupadesha anudatta. And second thing is that because his swarita it, it is basically ubhayapadi. Okay, so now that we have the information, so now you know how to make use of this information. So when we come to the book now, what has happened here is that when we take shap plus you go through usual steps, we add the lung anubandha lopaha. Let's look at the case when atmanepadam is used. Then pratyaya ta comes in there, prathapurusha ek vachanam. Of course, chilungi chile sich anubandha lopaha upadesha janunasika it and halantyam. So then what we have shap sa ta, shap sa ta. Now you see that the sich is going to be sandwiched between this pakara and the takara of the. So jalo jali, sich lopaha jalo jali, because we have shap followed by the sakara of sich followed by the pratyaya ta. Of course, the adagama is going to come by lung lung rung shudadataha adyantau takitau anubandha lopaha. But the important thing is here, make a note of this, is that the jalo jali. Jalo jali sij lopaha. Jalo jali sij lopaha, which we just saw over here. One more time. Jalaf parasya. Jalaf parasya. Sichas sakarasya. Lopo jali. Jalo jali. So this is right above the sutram. If you just use ita iti, the jalo jali. Okay. So please make a note in the book on this page that jalo jali is to be used over here. Otherwise, next we have ashap satam, the atam, because ta atam ja, right? Ta atam ja. So the pratyaya is atam, nothing special. Of course, here we don't use jalo jali because we are followed by atam, the akara of atam. So there's no jalo jali. But otherwise, the steps are very straightforward. A shap sakara of sich followed by atam. There is no vishesha karyam here at all. A shap ta. Here atmanepadeshvanataha. Normally jontaha, right? Normally jontaha is the jakara of the ja and the g. They become jontaha, jontaha. 713. 713. Always reminds me of my teacher. He always said pratyadesha. Look at the saptamasya prathame pade, purva bhage. In the beginning of 7.1, all the pratyaya adesha. So jontaha is there. Jontaha. Look at jontaha. Of course, jontaha we have used a lot everywhere. But let's pratyaya jakarasya sthane. Ant adesha. Ant adesha. Jhontah, 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 Jhontah. Jhontah, Jhontah. But then actually let's look at 714 directly, which is Atmanepade Shvanataha. Atmanepade Shvanataha. Which is 715, I'm sorry, not 714, because 714 is Adabhyastat and 715 is Atmanepade Shvanataha. Let's see, 715, 715, 715, 715 should be here. Okay, what we can, there are too many 715s here. Okay, here it is, 715, 715. Okay, here it is. Anakarat parasya atmanepadeshu jasya ad ityadesha syat. We also put a note over here that this at is an adesha in place of the jakara for pratyaha. So by nibhaktau tusmaha, this takara is not an itta. So what do we have right now? Right now we have a, shap, sa, ja. So that ja, the chakara of ja, is as Atmanipadam, because of Tangana of Atmanipadam, and it is not preceded by Akaraha. Atmanipadeshu Anataha. So because we have the Sakara of Sich preceding there, we don't have a Adantam Angam. The Angam for the Ja is Shapsa. Shapsa. It's not Adantam Angam. So instead of Jontaha comes the Apavadaha. Atmanepadeshvanataha. So please make a note over here. That's 715. Of course, this is we have used many times, but Atmanepadeshvanataha Ashapsata. Now here Ashaptaha, again the same thing, Jalo Jali. Because we had Shapsataha. Of course, this remind ourselves that we cannot use the Tita Atmanepadanam Tere. That's only for Tit Lakaraha. Lakara right now is a Nit Lakaraha, which is Lung. So the thas remains as thas. So thasas say doesn't apply. It's only for a tit lakaraha. So we have shap sa thas. Same thing jalo jali. Just like we had ashapta, same thing ashaptaha. We have a sandwich between jal and jal. Ashaptaha. Then ashabdhvam, sutram is dhicha. Sutram is dhicha. Same thing. We all back to the same section. Sutram is dhicha. Dhicha. That sutram is 8 to 25 dhicha. 8 to 25. So same thing here. Here is sakara followed by a dhakadi pratyaha. That also takes lopa. So dhicha. The sutram is here 8 to 25 dhicha. Let me show you quickly what dhicha stands for. This is nothing to do with really. Okay, let's look at the vritti of dhicha, and then we can talk about dhicha. I don't know if it may be in 8 to 25. Okay, it is in the second document. 8 to 25 dhicha. Okay, dhicha. Dhadau pratyaya pare saksasya lopaha. Dhadau pratyaya pare. So here we have a pratyaya, so it's 8 to 25. We've done this before itself, we have done this. So here what happens is that we have a okay, so ashaptaha was jalo jali, we finished that. Just like ashapta, ashaptaha, because we have the sich sandwich between the jal and jal. So by 8 to 26, ashaptaha. Ashapsatham, nothing special, just add the atham. Ashabdhvam. Now we have ashapsadhvam. So we have a sakara followed by a dhadi pratyaya, dhakaradi pratyaya. So we just saw sutram dhicha, which says that dhadau pratyaya pareya sakarasya lopaha. So dhadau pratyaya pare sakarasya lopaha by dhicha. So that sutram dhicha now allows us to do the sakar lopaha. Of course, after sakar lopa, then we get the jalam jash jashi. Jalam jash jashi. Because this dhakara is a jash letter. Because jabai gadadash jaba gadadash. Titiya varnaha to chaturtha varnaha. So this dhakara is a jash letter. And so therefore the prior pakara becomes a jash, which is the titiya varnaha. So jalam jash jashi. These are all sandhi rules. 8453 Jalam Jaschashi. So one more time, it is Dhicha is applying over here. Ashapsi, nothing special. Pratyaya is it, so just add Ashapswahi, Ashapsmahi. There's nothing special. So please make a note that Ashapta, Ashapthaha was Jalojali. Ashabdhvam was Dhicha, followed by, of course, Jalam Jashi. And Ashapsatha was Atmadepade-shvanataha. Atmadepade-shvanataha. Okay. Now, actually, this next page is the same thing that he. Okay, let's look at some special forms. Okay. The final Nakara and Makara become Anuswaraha. Very straightforward. Very straightforward, because, the Naschavadantasya Jali. Naschavadantasya. This really is a Sandhi rule. Nothing really special. In fact, what I just saw, that we have the post amamsta, which has not been posted yet, but I was able to pull it out. So let's look at this post amamsta. Let's go through all the steps. Let's take the dhatu man dhatu, and this is anudatta itta. Anudatta jita atmanipadam takes atmanipadam. Of course, prasiddha dhatu like manyate, very famous dhatu. So when we take the Prathama Purusha Ek Vachanam, we go through the usual steps, add lung and anubandha lopaha la, in the pratyaya ta, Prathama Purusha Ek Vachanam, chi lungi, chile sitcha, anubandha lopaha, sakaraha, and then because now in the nanteshu, han and manya, the two dhatus which are nudattupadeshaha. Then don't confuse these two things, please. Is the id vyavastha, idagamaha, in nishedha is decided by the swara of the dhatu itself, while the swara on the it letter decides the pada vyavastha, atmanepadam, parasyapadam. And we have in the nanteshu, manya hanu dvau. So manya, this dhatu, man dhatu of the divadi ganaha, it is a anudatta. So anudatta upadeshaha. So therefore ekacha upadesha anudattat, anudatta upadeshaha. So ekacha upadesha anudattat, idagama is stopped. Okay, now we have mansata. Mansata. Of course, we get the adagamaha, anubandha lopaha, amamsta, and finally naschavadantasya jali. Naschavadantasya jali, which is just a sandhi rule. If you have a nakara or a makara, which is apadantaha, followed by a jal, and we get the anuswaraha. And we will check for anuswarasya parasavarnaha, but that is only for a yai letter, and this is a sakaraha. So with this we cannot use that, because kapai, after that, shasha sar hal. So anuswarasya parasavarnaha, that does not apply here. But we get the anuswaraha by nascha padantasya jali. Nascha padantasya jali, 8324. Nascha padantasya jali. So that is what's being mentioned in the book. So it's from amamsta. Now there's nothing really too special over at all. Sich came in there. Idagama was stopped by 7 to 10. Remember, this is not parasyapadam. So all the rules of Sichi Buddhi Prasyapadeshu, Vada Vrajalantasya Achaha, that doesn't apply here. That's only Prasyapadeshu. Okay, so be careful of that. Okay, now, so let's coming back to the book now. We have this here, the final Nakara or Makaraha. So simply 8324, Naschavadantasya Jali, nothing special. Amamsta, Ramsta, Dhatu Ram. Okay, Ram, correct. So now we have that, similar steps. Now if you take, I put a special thing, if you take the Madhyam Purushaha Bhuvachanam, right? When you have a, man, sa, dvam, right? Following all the similar steps, instead of using the Prathama Purusha Ek Vachanam, let's look at the Madhyam Purusha Bhuvachanam. If you add the dvam, then Dhicha will come there again. Dhicha. So 8 to 25. So dhadav pratyaya pare. So will that the sakara of sich will take lopa. So we get the form amandhvam, arandhvam. Amandhvam, arandhvam. So, okay, let me just also make one small point here, arandhvam. Right? Now, as I mentioned to you in the class earlier, we are going to see a sutram maybe in the next class, which is going to be 7 to 20, 7 to 73. Yama Rama Namatam Sakcha. Now, how come they didn't apply here in the form Randhvam or Aramsta? Because it says Parasmipadeshu. Parasmipadeshu. This Yama Rama Namatam Sakcha, that's Parasmipadeshu. So always we look at the entire sutram and check for all the conditions. This sutram we're going to see in the next class. Not studying this day, but you might be wondering how come we did this form Aramsta and Arandhvam, because we should have not done that, but that is only Parasyapadesho. So Yama Rama Namatam Sakcha. So this month so this is Dhatu Ram is mentioned in Sutram. That's only Parasyapadesho. So this is the Makaranta Dhatu. This is Nakaranta Dhatu, but this one is only Parasyapadeshu. In fact, we are not doing Sutram today, but let me just go and show it to you, the Vritya Sutram 7 to 73. We will see in the next class, we see that 7 to 73. Yama Rama Namatam Sakcha. Namatam Sakcha. It says that Esham Sak Syad Ebhya Sichah It Syad Parasyapadeshu. So it does talk about the Ramu Kridayam, but only Parasyapadeshu. Okay, not right now. Alright, let's see what the next point in the book is. That says that Vas becomes Vat in the Arishta. Avatsit. Okay, now this is a sutram which we have already studied earlier, which is going to be the Sasyardha Dhatuke. Sasyardha Dhatuke. If you know what, let's go to our sutram here and let's look at an example. Avattam. It's right here, Avattam. Okay, so let's look at this sutram. Let's look at the example, I should say. Vasa Nivase. Let's look at the Pratham Purushaha Dvivachanam. Okay, when we add the usual steps, add Vas plus Lung, Alubandha Lopaha La. If you look at it, we are looking at Pratham Purusha Dvivachanam. Put the Pratya Tas, then Tas Tamipam Tam Tam Tamaha. Put the Tam in there in place of Tas. Of course, by Navibhakta Utusmaha, ending Makara doesn't get the Sanya. Then Chilungi, Chile Sitcha. Now what do we have? Anubandha Lopaha. So we have Vas Sa Tam. Nakam Sasyardha Dhatuke. So Saha Si Ardha Dhatuke. Let's look at the Sutram 7449. 7449. So if you have a pratyaya which is the sanya of ardha dhatukam, of course, right? So right now we have the pratyayas with chili and sich came in place of chili. The sanya of ardha dhatukam is there by ardha dhatukam sheshaha. And then we have prior to that a sakaraha. So sasyardha dhatuke. So if you have a sakaraha, angam ending because angasya adhikara, angam ending in a sakaraha, followed by a pratyaya which is sanya of ardha dhatukam and begins with a sakaraha, then what happens? In place of that santam angam, we get the takara deshaha. Of course, alontyasya, only the ending sakara is replaced. Okay, so if you want, we can look at it quickly here. 7449 sasyardha dhatuke, sasyardha dhatuke, sasyardha dhatuke, sasyardha dhatuke. Okay, here it is. Sasya tasyat sadavardha dhatuke. So sakara is replaced by takaraha and followed by satya, which is ardha dhatuka sanya. It begins with sakaraha. So now let's continue with our example. So what we have is that we had Vas Sa Tam. This sakara is a pratyaya, sanya of ardha dhatukam. Of course it is sakaraha, sakaradi. So then the if you have angam ending in a sakara, this sakara of vas takes the takara desha, becomes vat sa tam. So one more time, sasyardha dhatuke says that in place of a sakara, you put a takara, which is followed by a pratyaha, which is has sanya of ardha dhatukam and begins with a sakara. So we get vat sa tam, and then we have the vada vraja halanta syachaha. Just not forget that, because we have a halantam angam, right? And the sich pratyaya is there, which has no idagamaha. Otherwise, neti will stop the vriddhi. 724 will stop it. It's followed by parasya padam. Then the ach of the angam takes vriddhi, becomes vat sa tam by vada vraja halanta syachaha. And of course, adagamaha by lungtang rung kshvadataha adyantau takitau arubandha lopaha. Then jalo jali, jalaf parasya sasya lopo jali. So it's the sich is sandwich between a jal and a jal is lopaha avattam. In the book, what he has given is that he has given the form avat seet, all the same steps, but he has looked at the pratham purusha ekavachanam. So same thing here, the sasyardha dhatuke. So the sakara of vas takes a takara adeshaha, and the vriddhi adeshaha by vada vraja halanta syachaha come avat seet. And of course the idagamaha sisicho prukta, same thing we saw here, adrakshit, akarshit, all the same things. Idagamaha for the aprukta pratyaha by the sisicho prukte, and then ita iti sijlopaha, and finally the vartikam. So sijlopaha ekadeshe siddho vachaha, and finally we get the akasamay dirgha, because the vartikam makes a sich lopa siddha, because ita iti is 8 to 28, but we need to do akasamay dirgha, which is the sapada sapta adhyayi. So we have to use the vartikam to make the sich lopa siddha. I mean, we just did that. Okay, now let us look at this one. Time is running out. Maybe we can just do just this point. Maybe is this sutram says that da, dha, and stha take the aorist sa in the atmanipada after changing the final r to e. Adishi, adishvahi, adishmahi. Okay, this is this sutram, which is stagbhoricha. So okay, we have, last time we looked at this, in fact just we looked at it today, as a matter of fact. Ling sicha atmane padeshu, looked at ushcha. Little bit below that comes stag. There should be no space over here. Stagbhoricha is dhatu stha, as well as gusanyaka dhatu. Right? They take the ikara deshaha, and the sich pratyaya becomes a kit. So stagbhoricha. Let's look at 1 to 17. Stagbhoricha, 1 to 17. Okay, let's look at this sutram. Look at the number 1 to 17. We just looked at this section today. We have used the sutram 1 to 1 to 5. Sanyoga lit kit. Anuvritti of kit comes from down there. So anayor means stagbhoho. So this dhatu stha, of course, which is shtha gati nivrittau, as well as the dhatu which is the gusanya, they take the id adesha. Id means, of course, by alontyasya, the ending akara will take the id adesha, and antadesha sitya kit syat atmanepade. So two things happen here. That if the sich is following the dhatu either shtha nivrittau or a dhatu which has the gusanya, dada, bhadab, then two things happen. The dhatu takes the id adesha, alontyasya, this ending akara becomes it, ikaraha, and the sich becomes a kit, but atmanepade only. Remember, for example, these dhatus dudai and dudhai They are Nyit, they have Chavarga Panchama as a Nyit. So by Surita Nyitaha Kritiv Pray Kriyapale 1372, they can take Atmanipadam. 1378, they can take Parasyapadam. But this sutram only applies Atmanipade. Okay. Of course, we already saw the sutram in the previous class when we derived the form Adat and in fact we started the class with, interestingly we started the class with that. Today's class we started with that, with the form Aduhu. But that was Parasyapadesho, Sijluk. Gatistha Gupa Bhubhyasya Parasyapadesho. Now we're talking about Atmanipade. Okay. Let's take an example. Let's take Dhatu Da. In this case, take Atmanipada. Okay. Now, one more thing, notice that how can we look at say that Dhatu Stha, Dhatu Shtha Gati Nivruttau. That's Parasyapadi only, isn't it? That has no it letter. So it is devoid of an indication for bringing Atmanipadam. So by Sheshat Karti Parasyapadam, only Parasyapadam should be used. Then what's the point of mentioning Stha in this sutram? Right? But don't forget that Anudat Tajnita Atmanipadam and Sheshat Kriti Paraspadam, all these are general rules. There are also special rules in 1.3. And in that, we talk about Atmanipadam, Paraspadam, special situations. And there we have special rules for the Dhatu Stha. So if you want to do some homework, you can look at, so from here, start this section about Atmanipadam. And there we have the C. Samava Pravibhyastaha. Especially when preceded by certain upasargas. Stha will take Atmanipadam. So even though as a default it is true that is Dhatu Shtagati Nivruttau is Parasyapadi. Because the Atmanipada Lakshana Vihinaha doesn't have any Atmanipada indications. But there are some special rules which in the case of special upasargas or whatever, it takes the Atmanipadam. So these special rules which comes from 1322 up to 26, they talk about Atmanipadam following stars. So don't think that the mention of this Dhatu Stha is Nishprojam. Of course it is not. But in case you're wondering why it is like that, because Stha can take Atmanipadam, special circumstances. And of course I said this Dhatu, Dudai and Dudhai, they have the Chavarga Panchama as an It. So they are Ubhayapadi by 1372. Srutajnitaha Kriti Vipray Kriyapale, they can take Atmanipadam. And Sheshat Kriti Parasyapadam 1378, they can take Parasyapadam. Let's look at this. Last time is running out now, so let's look at one example here. Adita. If we take this Dhatu Dudai Dani, but this time Atmanipadam. So we cannot use the Gatistha Gupa Bhubhyasya Parasyapadeshu. That's only Parasyapadeshu. So Atmanipadam. So let's follow the usual steps. Lung Alubandha Lopaha. Atmanipadam, so we'll use the Suritagnyataha Kriti Vipray Kriyapale, and we get the Pratyata Prathapurusha Ekvachanam, Chilungi, Chile Sich, Anubandha Lopaha. Remember this Da is Anudat Upadeshaha. So Eka Chupadeshanudatat stops the Ragamaha. And now comes Staghoricha. So this we have the Dhatu Da, which has the Gusanya by Dada Gvadap, and then maybe I should put that over here, Dada Gvadap 1120, and then it is followed by Sich is there. So Sich is following a Dhatu which has the Gusanya, and it's followed by Atmanipra Pratyaha. So then two things happen over here is that this Dhatu gets the Ida Deshaha, Alontyasya. So Akarasya Sthan Ikara Deshaha. And the Sich becomes a Kitta. So because we got Di Sa Ta. Now because the Sich is a Kitta, therefore Kiniticha stops the Gunadeshaha. Okay. So the Sich is made a Kit. So therefore there is no Gunadeshaha by Savradhat Karadhakayoho. Kiniticha stops that. So now of course Adagamaha and then Alubandha Lopaha. And then of course we get now we get a special rule. Rasvadangat. Today we already studied. We looked at the whole gamut today. We looked at Dicha, which you already said before itself. We had Dicha. We have studied dhicha even earlier. Then today we looked at jalo jali. The sakara of sich is standing between a jal and a jal, it takes lopaha. We saw ita iti, we saw ita iti. And now we're seeing rasvadangat. Rasvadangat. It says that sicha lopo jali. So when you have an angam ending in a short vowel, the sich takes lopa when the jal letter follows. Rasvadangat. So because anuvritti from jalo jali, anuvritti of jali is coming down. Rasvadangat. So one more time, if you have sakara of sicha followed by a rasvad means yena vidhisadantasya, the 1172 paribhasha. So rasvantadangat sichaha sakarasya lopaha jali. Jali. So let's finish this form and we'll stop the class now. So we have di sa ta. So this ikara is a rasvantamangam, the ikarantamangam. It's followed by a jal letter, which is takara here. So then we get the rasvadangat, the lopaha. We get adita rasvadangat. Yena vidhisadantasya, so rasvantadangat. Okay, let us stop with that. Let's connect with the book here. So this is the form over here, da, dha and stha. Take the aorist pratyaya sich, and the final a becomes e. That is the stagboricha. Example, adishi. He has taken the same thing except he has taken the uttam purusha ekvachanam. So a, da, sich and e. Okay, in this case the ikara is not a jal letter. So we don't get rasvadangat. But we do get stagboricha. The da becomes the sich becomes a kit. So therefore kiniticha stops the gunadesha. And same thing, adishvahi. In both these cases also, we don't have a jal letter following. So rasvadangat doesn't apply. There's no jal letter following. There's no rasvadangat. Because the jal is not following. We do have rasvantavangam, but that anuvritti of jali is coming down. So 8 to 27 does not apply. So let's stop here. We'll continue from next time. We're going to finish up this one. For homework, you can look at 8378. Inashidhvam, which is 8378, 79. We've studied this tool already before. Inashidhvam lunglitam dhongat and vibhashetaha. So let's look at these two starting in the next class. And then of course we saw the from a Drak sheet today. Already we saw that. And okay, we'll continue with this next time. Okay, and then we'll take this so-called third form. Only thing in the third form is the idagamaha. So all the same things. This will go pretty fast. So this only is the sich with the idagamaha. So this should be fairly straightforward. If you want to do from homework, this table over here, there's nothing special in this table. There's no, see, look at all these numbers. Sijabhya vidibhyascha, vidibhyascha, sisicho prukte. Then you know, of course, the gunadeshaha 7, 3, 84, 86, sarvadhatkarthaka yoho. Then puganta lagupasasya cha, same thing, 721 to 727, and the chilesi. So nothing new is down here. So for homework, please finish this table down here. Okay, we'll stop with that. Ramo Rajamanis Sada Vijayate Ramam Ramesham Bhaje Ramena Vihata Nishachara Chamu Ramaya Tasmai Namaha Raman Nasti Paranam Parataram